This is Patito's Gang, and you are welcome. Today we are looking at the role of the civil society with their arise to fill in the gap that the political parties, failure of political parties in Nigeria. And in every nation where civil society groups are allowed to operate, they play a significant role in changing government efforts. We saw that in the Tiananmen this in China. We saw that in Poland, in the 80s, where Victor Valency, labor leader, was able to turn around, and the military ruler in Poland those days was kicked out of office. And in Nigeria, how has the civil society groups fared? And will they help us in all these failings of the political parties? These and other things the gang we are looking at. So, civil society groups. Unfortunately, we have frontline activists, Dr. Joe, and this man from Enugu, Chukwuma. Yes. So, you guys that are, we're not feeling your impact. Why?
Well, civil society groups must always give direction. They must not be politically biased. Financially, depending on the aims and objectives of civil society groups, because they will tend to lose their voice by the time they go to meet politicians and others to give them money. But for civil society groups, those that are registered under the CAC, they can also seek for funds, either locally or internationally. They have their books. They have a board that will manage the operations of such groups. And if any of them err, especially the officers, maybe somebody is the president, that person can be called to order. There's one thin line. There must be separation. We have to separate politics from civil society. It's so sad now that there are still some that belong to the leprous wing of the civil society groups. Those ones that you see them, they are fully in politics, they are also civil society. They speak, from both sides of the mouth, and when something goes wrong, they will not,
I like what you said about some people belonging to the leprous group. Our civil society, because that's what Charles will take you on.
Yes, because I was going to come to that, and it's amazing, and sometimes one begins to wonder. I think in this country we just keep running from one challenge or problem to the other. All kinds of groups emerge as civil society groups, but if you take a closer look, they are only active when politics is around the corner. And issues from governance affect people in various ways all through the years. These civil society groups don't rise to those occasions. But when it is politics, as we see now, every person seems to be the leader of one civil society group or the other and jump onto occasions. And one begins to wonder, they all cried in the night that the child died in the morning. So people begin to wonder, are you funded by political parties? Because that's what we want to, because there needs to be that separation, because we see that the political parties, the way they are structured, they are failing us.
I would like to cut in by saying not all civil society, that of course practice that. Over the time, we've committed to mentoring young people, especially young professionals, leaders and entrepreneurs, those of them that have voter apathy, even 2 years ahead of the elections, on the need to get involved. Because it's not just enough, like everybody now, get PVC, there is need for increment in the number of those that are voting. But then we've not always also given attention to the quality of votes. Because quantity is one thing, quality is another. And according to Joseph Maestri, every people get the leadership they deserve. So when we have the wrong set of people, maybe those that maybe just with 500 naira, they are ready to sell their votes and all the rest, we can't really move forward. Because we must understand, like if we take a cue from 2015 elections, where 68.8 million people were accredited registered voters, And of course, only 29 million people went to the polls. Out of that 40 million people who never bothered to vote, statistics reveal that a great deal of them are young professionals, leaders and entrepreneurs who believe that if they can get to the peak of their profession, even without contributing to national development, they'll be fine. So we've committed over the time to help, inspire these young ones on the need to get involved. And interestingly, holding leaders accountable. But of course, how can you talk about having young persons who can hold leadership accountable if they don't have the capacity? If they are looking up to the politicians for some of those little money that are doled out by those politicians.
It brings us back to where your funding comes from, because you need funds to be able to do all of these. So, and that's where the problem seems to arise from.
If we want to situate the roles of civil society, almost all civil societies have different mandates. Some are into budgeting, empowerment, training, elections, but corruption. I mean, different, although there are some that are, almost everywhere. But from the mandate of such groups, then they can access funding. But some are lazy, they don't want to go through that, they don't want to be monitored by anyone. So when there's this thing, when there's any issue, they will be there. But for civil society groups that are organized, and that's why I said it, that it's not a sin for any organization to be registered with CAC. There's that cry, and then people made a lot of issues out of it that no, they cannot be registered. But at least it's to curtail some of these things and also ensure that people are accountable.
I think going back to Austin's introductory comments, I think it comes back to impact, because that's what we are measuring. He gave instances of like the Tiananmen Square incident and others we see across the globe. The yellow protests, I'm sure, are still going on in France. Now, is that consistency that is failing, which is why I think we're even discussing this. How can civil society groups rise to the failures of the political parties? In 2011 or 2012, when there was fuel price increase, civil society groups called out Nigerians, and Lagos was practically brought to a standstill. Kaduna boiled, Abuja boiled. Ever since then, we haven't witnessed anything near that. But over this period, we cannot claim that Nigeria has been on this.
Have they bewitched you guys?
So those are the issues.
No, let's just have a quick throwback at the military dictatorship. Wait, I'll move forward. I just want to, we all had a popular mandate. We want military back to the barracks. Now there's politics, and you find out that some people have debated, some people are into politics, some want to go into house. So at times when people come out, some want to say that, well, because you are not in any political party, so you want to pull down this party. But I just want to say something that, apart from, yes, we're all at the forefront of that time when we had fuel increments. But now, apart from that, there are lots and lots of issues that is making us so retrogressive. Like killings, there are people who deal with IDPs, there are people who mentor, like you said.
There are 500 NGOs in Maiduguri, and all these crisis flashpoints.
And I think one dimension to this will be strategy, right? Of course, the politicians are very crafty and creative at the same time. They understand, and just like the popular saying goes, the rule of politics is don't talk while you are eating. So when they discover that you are a major problem in the midst amongst the civil society, they could get you, water you down, and the next thing we can't hear your voice any longer. But one of those strategies could also be, you want to be a member of the civil society. You could also consider maybe continue, have a base, right? What you basically do, and then let the other one be like a hobby. Something like you delight in going back to one as a way to contribute your voice. Because we just have a situation now where you could have so many young persons, probably they have not got any base, and you just hear them say, I'm a member of the civil society, that's my occupation and all the rest. Now, if we can have people begin to build capacity, practice your profession, and then in the course of doing that, lend your voice to the ears of the society, we can actually get it better. Not a situation where maybe towards election, You know, you see several civil society, they will turn into one political support group. I mean with that, but the strategy for the civil society will be, how do we ensure that we have less of this towards elections? Because of course, once you become partisan, you lose the essence. Because a referee must belong to neither of the power of the teams.
Yes. And civil society, you know, groups should not generally be seen as enemies of the government, because I know that those that are in power, the moment they see one or two persons, they say, ah, look at that one. I mean, it's always there to criticize. So far, can offer constructive criticism. They can dissect. It's not cosmetic solution. And then from time to time, we also assist the government, assist INEC. I know several times that we've engaged in voter education, even during election monitoring, training and retraining, not only within the INEC, but even some of the political parties. There are female ones that want to aspire to occupy political office. I might not necessarily want to belong to any of their party, but I'll help them. Where's your manifesto? I'll help them develop their manifesto. How the particular person was saying, if one is not a talk, I mean, one cannot progress. And I mean, that is not it. It's what one has upstairs, if that person is able to deliver. And how, like Albert Park says, that it's not interested in what people have in their heads, but how it positively translates in the lives of our people.
You know, Joe, you know, you've been on the front line for many years. And I remember the fuel subsidy crisis, you know, and you were right there. And don't you get scared or something? You know, because the risk involved in the activism, you know, and at the end of the day, you know.
When there is that passion, I'm an incurable optimist anyway. So I'm optimistic that, I mean, if we do a lot more, we can have a Nigeria that works. So if one has a passion and one believes in what one is doing, one will not even be afraid of death. I remember several times with Chief Ganifa and me, with Professor Wole Soyinka, I mean, several of us being beaten, being slapped, and several people, I mean, once in a while when I'm incarcerated, we just say, let's take her blood, maybe she's sniffing something. But the only thing is that interest is when one has a passion, when one wants to have a Nigeria that works, when one believes that east, west, south or north, that green passport should make a lot of meaning, and that is the best, and that should be the best. And then when one also believes that governance is not, I mean, it's not just a thing that, there must be that interest, because like Karl Marx says that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So when people, I would say, abandon leprosy to look for cure for eczema, when we do not do the needful, then we'll find out that...
I was reading something about Karl Marx and all that, and the author said that because Karl Marx asked for a job or something with New York Times, and he was denied that job because of one thing or the other. And the author was saying, look, if he had been given that job, maybe Marxism and all that couldn't have been, because he wrote a piece about the class, class thing, so the movement he formed and all that. So when we come back, we'll take a short break to talk to our people on the streets, and then when we come back, we'll go back to finding what can civil society groups do to make sure that we have peaceful 2019 elections. Don't go away, you're watching Potatoes Gang. We'll be right back.
When the government is seen that way, it will be reduced. We don't want people that are just striving to get there.
Principally, civil society first, they tend to see the flaws and failures of the current government or the current dispensation, basically. So when they see this point, they're supposed to make plans and they're supposed to engender change, basically. Let the government know what they're doing is wrong, and also tell them the ways they can do it to be better. And if they are not doing this, you should hold them accountable, take them, ensure that the people basically fight for their rights and know that there's a possibility to have better and more improved government than what they have at present, basically, yes. So I feel they have a very important role to play, and they should also try as much as possible to not be under sponsorship from political governments or political parties, yes.
This is Potatoes Gang, and we're still talking about the role of civil society in filling role of, the feelings of our political parties.
I'm worried that too many things have happened over the years. We don't feel the impact of civil society. For instance, we cannot wish away the fact of the matter that the Ekiti and Osun elections that held before now were not, international observers said they were not done transparently. I expected civil society to call out INEC or organize, because it's a prelude to the big thing.
Yes, Charles. And the new IG was the one that supervised.
That's, just getting to
You
hear
people
that.
are not. You people are
So
not.
those are the kind of issues
we should push
that civil
for,
society should bring to the
yes,
fore.
and continue from where they.
There were several reactions also from indigenous civil societies, and interestingly also the matter is before the courts. You understand? So I hope justice is done at the end of the day.
Why can't you even call out Nigerians to the streets? Because elections are key. Elections are key to this. We're talking about the stability. We're talking about the stability of a country.
Not even that. We had lots of interventions.
And we're talking of elections that don't have integrity.
You know, the thing is that it's not a straight jacket thing. Is although we are talking about short term and long term, we're calling people. During the fuel
When was
thing,
the last time people called out Nigerians?
Last time.
Like we had in Ojota,
Occupy. We were on the street March last year. We were on the street December. To talk about human rights. Human Rights Day, we were on the streets for anti-corruption. Yeah. But the thing really is that some of this impact being made might be likened to dropping a cube of sugar in an ocean. There are people that are making impact. There are people that are moving. Because my heart, it breaks my heart always when I see this country and I see people who have died. I see people who have paid the supreme price. And we are still, look at what happened June 12th. The freest, most peaceful election. We lost the man and the mandate. And then look at what happened after his death. So we should, when history, if we don't learn from history, history will always repeat itself.
When that June 12 happened, and for politics, they announced that, okay, we have recognized that June 12th, but I expected civil society groups to push for the man to be declared president.
No, it's still part of the thing that we are doing. I remember the last program we had, Professor Oleshoyinka, March was this last June 12th. And what we've always been saying is that June 12th should be declared as public holiday, should be a democracy day, and there must be a posthumous declaration of MK Abiola as a past president. And where we have portraits of all past head of states, it should be there. We have not lost hope. I'm sure such will still happen, even with the posthumous recognition, that was given to them. But more importantly, this election.
Now that the civil society groups are working so hard and all that, and it's as if nothing, we don't feel, like you rightly said, Chad, we don't feel that impact the way we should. Imagine where there's no civil society groups. What could have happened to this country?
Yeah.
It beats my imagination.
You see another aspect of it, which is very, very important, that aspect of educating the citizens. Because oftentimes in the conventional education we have, people get schooled without being educated. Having the rightful information, they need to operate within their immediate society. So you could even call maybe the usual social mobility of trying to do some protest. And the next thing is some people will water it down, saying this person was sponsored and all the rest. But with more education, people can actually understand that social mobility is an active aspect of democracy and should be encouraged.
Yeah. And again, just before your chance, there's this American billionaire, George Soros. He believed, because he was a survivor, the Holocaust, a Hungarian Jew that migrated to the US, and he spent a whole chunk of his money, those enclaves, former enclaves of, socialist communism, to make sure they're liberated. So Hungary, he was sponsoring documents, educating the public about the evils of the thing, and through that effort, civil society groups brought about the democracy that Hungary enjoys today.
We still have
so we want to see that kind of this thing.
Yes, it's key. And then we still have some of our nationalists that you see them, on the road, and they still inspire, some of these people. Some of them might not necessarily give money. Some of them, they are intellect. There's no time I call Professor Oleshoyinka. Even yesterday I still spoke with him. is ready, is willing. We see how them, even, and if I may Beko, several of them. Even yes. And that's why I just want
Gani, I heard from some sources that part of the reason why Gani died was the detention, the maltreatment they gave him. Yes, the trauma.
And then one is detained, expired tear gas.
Yes.
I mean, I remember when coming out of detention, I had terrible ulcer and a lot of other things. But people like Gani, Beko, they pay the price.
I don't know, because sometimes I imagine how your children will be. Let me just say it now. I've said it off camera, but let me say it here. Because I admire the work you are doing, you and your husband and all that. And for this society to be great, and I want to encourage you guys to keep up the good work, that you're doing. I wish I had that, that kind of this thing that.
No, what you're also doing under this platform is also yes, also part of.
And also another perspective of it, just like in the Southeast, we've held a particular program, called Roundtable for the Youth, right? With those that are in charge of the youth. Either it be a governor or a commissioner for youth. Because sometimes you may want to assume that the politicians have all the ideas. Mm-hmm. They do not. Yes. When we, in most cases, what we even demand, life is demand and supply. Yes. Because sometimes you could even meet like a young man met a certain state governor and requested, the governor was like, what do you want me to do? And all he could answer is, I'm hungry. I need something to eat. You can imagine a whole governor asking you that. So I believe if we can actually stress more on those values that build the society, and then to the political parties, everybody's talking about debates for the candidates now, but nobody have revisited, or we've kept on complaining that no political party in Nigeria have ideology. So what about if we can begin to have the ideological debates for political parties?
Or even take over the role of orientation agency? If I were government, yes. I will have no need for orientation agency. All I need to do, gather all the civil society groups, go and to the villages, all these places, speak their languages, educate them, political education, give them political education. If that is the focus for 4 years before any election.
That comes back to resources. But for me, since we have something very important close at hand. We're just less than 1 month away from our presidential election. A critical turning point. It would be nice to see and hear from you guys the impact you're making, because these are very ominous times. The kind of news that is filtering out from all kinds of camps, they might just give cause for worry. So when you talk about the failings of political parties and how civil society groups can step in, I think it is this time in terms of what are you doing to ensure that these elections will come and go? First off, and again, it's credible. We don't feel it.
It's beyond
the noise of politics.
Charles is beyond that they can do. They can only do so much.
We are only speaking on behalf of our colleagues.
Vigilance is one thing that we have always talked about. People must remain vigilant, and they must also, all these things that we say, for those who don't have permanent voters card, they cannot vote, and they must move out. Women again must use their numerical strength to assert themselves, because they are the ones who can put their issues on the front burner. So people should go out, get their permanent voters card. At times we go to motor parks and just tell people. I mean, I remember 2008, when I traveled to about 20 or 21 states within the United States, America, all those they are campaign grounds. You can't see anybody taking in any weapon. I'm sure that when we see, when the civil society helps in creating more awareness, education, and let people be vigilant, a lot more can be achieved. Saving one person's life is as important as in saving thousands of lives.
All right, that's where time is not our friend when we talk exciting topics like this. The point is made about the role of the civil society groups in every nation, and even in Nigeria, the good work they have done so far. I will encourage them to do more and know that they can still do a great job to make sure whatever strategy they have to come up with, education is not too late to educate people, and then encourage them to get the voters card, even those after the post-election period, so they're doing the good work they're doing. let the debate continue. Let the conversation continue on the social platforms, as you can see in your screens, Facebook, WhatsApp, and other social media platforms. Let the debate continue. Until we come your way again next time, this is Potatoes Gang.